Okay. Mock draft time. Immediately following the 2023 NBA draft lottery, Adam and I are going to dive deep. We're going to do a quick mock draft. We're going to go through 14. Probably not farther than that. Okay. Number 1, Adam, you go first. I'll go second. I'll give you the easy one.
Victor Wembanyama.
Okay. Explain very briefly why you're taking Victor Wembanyama for the Spurs beyond the obvious.
Yeah, a generational type of player in talent, and not just in terms of what he does as a number one option on offense, because I think he can evolve into that for an organization that so desperately needs it. But he is quite literally one of, if not the best defensive prospects that I've ever scouted. Just changes the geometry of the court with his size, his length, his fluidity, unbelievable shot blocker. I have a lot of confidence in him continuing to add to his skill base on offense. I believe the Spurs are an organization that will handle him with care, both in terms of how they manage his body and in what they surround him with skill and talent-wise to make sure he's put in the best positions to succeed. It is a home run for both parties. Let's never overthink this thing. Celebrate in the streets of San Antonio and move on.
Okay, number 2, the Charlotte Hornets. I'm going to take Scoot Henderson. I think that the fit between Scoot Henderson and LaMelo Ball is absolutely tremendous. I think LaMelo's 3 and layups offensive strategy plays really, really well with Scoot Henderson in the mid-range, where he loves to kind of – people said it was settling. I think that he just continues to develop that piece of his game at a really, really high level. I think that his mid-range jump shot is maybe the most underrated part of his game, outside of the passing, which I also think is really underrated. He's a sharp decision maker. I think he is an elite creative force in today's NBA. He's a little bit more geared toward the scoring side. LaMelo can be a little bit more geared toward the playmaking side. I know that that would be more of a 2-point guard alignment, but Steve Clifford actually did a really good job late in the season. Do you know where Charlotte finished from February 14th onward in defensive rating?
Oh, they probably were top 10, weren't they?
They were 6th. They had the 6th best defensive rating. It's pretty wild. So I'm going to go Scoot Henderson. I think that Steve Clifford can figure it out on defense. Yeah.
Okay. Shout out Nick Richards.
Shout out Nick Richards. Number 3.
And number 3, tough spot here. Portland Trailblazers on the clock. I am going to take Brandon Miller here. And the biggest reason why is I think that if I'm trying to have him fit next to Damian Lillard, and I got to keep this pick, he is a much better fit than anybody else that's still on the board. If I'm looking to trade this pick to build a championship team around Damian Lillard, then Brandon Miller probably has the most perceived value at pick number 3 outside of the organization, who we can get some different pieces for that help us build a winner with Dame. And if we do decide option C to move on from Dame, keep this pick, I do like the thought process of Brandon Miller playing off of Shaedon Sharpe and those two guys on the wings, providing the blueprint for a modern offense and system where you have positional size and length all over.
Okay. Number 4 for me, I am going to go Amen Thompson to the Houston Rockets. I think this makes an immense amount of sense for the Houston Rockets. Amen Thompson is a tremendous creative force. He's a top 1% athlete in the NBA from day one. We're not just talking about some guy that can kind of jump a little bit. We're talking about a guy with an elite first step, elite body control, great quickness, great athleticism. He ticks every box athletically. And oh, by the way, came in at like 212 to the combine yesterday. They're putting on weight and they're getting stronger, which is going to be enormous for the kind of rim pressure that he puts on the basket. I kind of think that his upside is like Russell Westbrook-y, but maybe not quite as physical as Russ. How Russ works in the modern NBA, I think would be very interesting. Peak Russ. But I think there's a lot of that there with Amen Thompson in terms of his ability just to be a transition playmaker that pressures the basket all the time. Really high-level passer, makes high-level passing reads all the time. Cross-corner kicks, dump-offs, wraparounds, lobs, whatever you need. Really, really big fan of Amen Thompson. I think that Jalen Green and Amen Thompson would be the highest upside backcourt in the NBA, let's say long term.
Yep. Love that fit for you there for Houston.
Okay, number 5, you are up with the Detroit Pistons.
Yeah, I can't wit any less, so I'm going to wit more. Cam Whitmore here to Detroit at number 5. Look, it's a disappointing night for the Pistons to fall outside of that top 4, but Whitmore has a really high upside of all the guys available. He fits super well next to Cade Cunningham and Jaden Ivey. As you mentioned earlier, Sam, great transition partner for Ivey, great versatile slasher to play alongside the high IQ passing of Cade Cunningham in late clock half-court situations. I like this fit. I think this is a really high upside play for an organization that still is in the process of building younger. I think Troy Weaver likes athletic dudes, and Whitmore is a certainly athletic dude. Best of what's around. So can't hate taking best player available while also having a good fit for the team.
Okay. I am up now at number 6. Who is number 6? The Orlando Magic. Okay. I am going to go with Taylor Hendricks. Ooh. I think Hendricks ticks the most boxes in terms of what this Orlando Magic front office tends to look for in guys, on top of actually adding to the skill sets that they need. So this is a team that really, really, really needs shooting more than anything, in my opinion. Taylor Hendricks can definitely knock down catch and shoot threes. He'd be a great spacing option for Paulo Banchero, Franz Wagner. I think they could really use a terrific weak side rim protector next to those two in order to potentially longer term play smaller Paulo Banchero at the 5 lineups that really allow them to get creative offensively. On top of that, and this is kind of the most important part, there isn't really a guard available that can shoot unless you want to take Cason Wallace at number 6. And I'm just a little bit worried about the upside for Wallace taking him at number 6.
Yeah.
So I'm going to go Taylor Hendricks here.
I like that. I like that for you, Sam.
Okay, you are up at number 7.
Yeah, and I mentioned earlier for the Indiana Pacers at 7, this is a good night and a good position for them because they are guaranteed to get one of Cam Whitmore, Taylor Hendricks, or Jarris Walker. You took the first 2 guys I mentioned, so Jarris Walker out of Houston coming to Indiana. Underrated connective passer on the offensive end of the floor within systems. Short rolls, can be a small ball 5. I really like the pairing of him and Miles Turner together, where Walker can be more of the strength and brawn and Turner more of the shot blocker from the weak side. Both good help defenders for sure, and will help blanket some of the things that the Pacers have trouble with on the perimeter. I do buy Walker being a solid catch and shoot threat long-term, not necessarily a great guy in that regard. He's still got some questions he's got to prove in terms of his floor spacing ability. But I do think the Pacers need more defensive acumen, another guy at that bigger wing position. And I like the fit of Walker and Turner here. I think this is a decent haul for Indiana.
Okay, I dig it. I'm a pretty big fan. Okay. Number 8. I am up with the Washington Wizards. I'm going to go Ausar Thompson from Overtime Elite. I think he's an interesting fit almost regardless of the direction they decide to go whenever they eventually hire a new general manager. I don't think John Thompson III is going to be running the show forever there. Call me crazy. I think Ausar Thompson is a good fit next to Bradley Beal because of his ability to take on tougher defensive assignments and because of his passing and playmaking ability. I think it is worth noting that Ausar Thompson actually was frankly the better player in Overtime Elite this year than Amen. It's just that Amen long-term has a little bit more upside because of his twitch athletically and because of his ball handling ability in his passing and playmaking. But Ausar, I think, is a little bit more polished, actually. He's a better finisher around the basket. He's closer to being able to shoot at some point. I think that between Beal and Kyle Kuzma, he makes a lot of sense. And then also having a floor spacing 5 in Kristaps Porzingis will get the most out of his athletic ability as a driver and cutter. So I think Asar Thompson makes a lot of sense for the Washington Wizards.
Yep. Good pick, Sam. Good pick.
Okay. You are up at number 9.
Number 9, the Utah Jazz select Anthony Black from Arkansas. I am a huge fan of Anthony Black. This is a team and a franchise that needs that creator with the ball in their hands. It's the one thing they kind of lack right now. Great all-star floor spacer in Lauri Markkanen, and a guy who in the front court can create his own, but somebody needs to get him easier ones. Long-term, Anthony Black can be that guy. I love positional size and feel intersections. Anthony Black is certainly that. Those guys do not tend to fail in the NBA. He's got more athletic juice than he's shown. Arkansas's half-court offensive spacing was abysmal. I expect his scoring inside the lane to continue to get better as a result of that. Strong going to his right hand, really physical body, quick processor in so many different ways. Unbelievable perimeter defender at the point of attack. But he's got that intangible factor that has made me fall in love with him. The more I watch him on film, the more I understand about his background. I think there's something to this kid that's going to allow him to outperform whatever perceived limitations we have on he doesn't shoot it well enough right now. Does he have a mid-range game? All of those things, push him aside, bet on the person. I think this is an unbelievable coup for the Utah Jazz to be able to get a long-term connective piece who can play your number one facilitator if you have to at the 9th overall pick.
I think that is a good call at the end of the day. I do. Number 10 now, the Dallas Mavericks. Mm-hmm. I think they're probably going to move this, to be completely honest. I think it makes the most sense. I will say I think the player that makes the most sense for them is probably Cason Wallace, because he can take on tougher defensive assignments from their perimeter players and Luka Doncic and Kyrie Irving. I think he can play both on and off ball, which I think is probably interesting when playing bench units involving one of those two players. He can be a really good complement to either one of those guys. I also do wonder if they just like reach and take like Derek Lively here. That's actually what I've mocked right now on the Athletic. If I was them, I would just take Cason Wallace. I'm not quite convinced that they actually just end up doing that though.
I was going to ask you if Lively really is that far of a reach, or if the ends justify the means with how much this roster would benefit from just having a floor spacer and a guy who, when Luka or Kyrie are isolating, you say, just go stand 6 feet from the rim, and if we need you, we'll throw it up to you. Like, you can make it work.
Yeah, I think that is interesting. I think Lively is like a great fit here, and this would be a really really good spot for him. Luka and Kyrie would make his life so much easier on offense, and he'd be really tremendous for them on defense. So yeah, I'm going to go Cason Wallace because I think it's much more likely Cason Wallace gets taken in the lottery than Derek Lively, but I think there's a real case for Lively at 10.
Yeah. All right. 11, Orlando.
Yep.
So do you know how in the NFL quarterbacks always go out and they buy their offensive linemen some really sweet like cars or gadgets and gizmos and stuff? If I am Paolo Banchero, I am crossing my fingers that someday I'm going to get to buy an Escalade for the 11th pick here, Grady Dick, because Grady Dick is going to make Paolo Banchero's life so much easier operating in isolation moves at the elbows and the low post areas. The Orlando Magic need a specialty shooter. Jalen Suggs and Markelle Fultz are unbelievable defenders and pieces to have on a roster. They can be winning players, but you need to maximize space when you have other stars who demand the basketball and those two guys on the perimeter. Grady Dick is that connective piece. There's enough depth and length here in Orlando to work with him on the defensive end of the floor. It's just a no-brainer pick to me.
I agree. I think that this is like to me, it would be hard to see Grady Dick falling below this pick, given how much Orlando needs shooting. Was kind of wondering, like, is there a world where he's in the mix at 6?
I don't think so. I would rather I would rather move out of 6 and trade down and pick in like 8 or 9, because I do think that there's going to be an arms race between Washington and Utah at some point to try to get like a Sore or Anthony Black. If there's one guy that separates more than the other, I can see Utah trying to jump Washington.
That is interesting. Utah, like if Utah loves Anthony Black more than a Sore or vice versa,
Yeah.
they try and jump, get to 6. Orlando moves down. That's the most interesting trade down, trade up.
Yep.
Kind of thing that I've heard so far.
Yeah.
That actually makes a ton of sense to me as you were saying that. Okay. I like that a lot. Okay. Number 12.
Uh-oh.
I think Leonard Miller makes a lot of sense for Oklahoma City. I've just done this before. And like, this is what I've mocked right now. I'm going to go Leonard Miller. Fuck it. That's right. I am going to do that. Like, I think that he's a tough rebounder, which is exactly what you want next to Chet Holmgren long-term at the 5. You want somebody who can grab and go on the break and can lead the break next to Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, Josh Giddey, etc. You want somebody that can make plays, make decisions, be an attacking-oriented player. I think he fits a lot of their character profile that they tend to really like at number 12. Leonard Miller needs to improve as a shooter, and I think that he has the touch to be able to do that because he's an elite level finisher around the basket. I think that there's real upside in Miller in a way that it's hard to find at 12 in terms of on-ball creativity. At that size, Leonard Miller came in yesterday at like 6'9.5" without shoes, 7'2" wingspan, like 220, 218, something like that pounds. He's 19 years old. He can handle, he can grab and go on the break. He's a good passer. Like, I think that's a lottery pick. I do. Okay. I'm sorry, everybody. I think that's a lottery pick at the end of the day. I know he's not rated there by other people. I think this is a perfect spot.
Okay. I have heard your argument for this for a couple of weeks now, and I get it. And he's a very thundery type of player. I think I'm not sold that he's a lottery talent. I'm just not quite there. But I get the fit, no doubt about it.
Yeah. I know I'm crazy. Go ahead. Go next.
All right. 13, Toronto. I've been sitting here while you've been giving your Leonard Miller to love fest and trying to decide between two guys. And I'll just be straight up, because is this where we're stopping here with 13 and 14?
13 is your last one. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm debating between.
Unless I decide at the end to go like slightly longer.
Okay. Well, I'm torn between the upside of a GG Jackson, who I can't get past of a lottery guy, and Kobe Buffkin, who I have fallen in love with. And I think this is a Raptors team that would like a lot of the traits that he brings to it. So I'm going to go Kobe Buffkin here. I think they need backcourt help. I think it gives them a lot of long-term flexibility to build a roster in some different ways, with adding more on-ball pieces because Kobe can play off of it, or trying to see what he has in year one and determine if he's the guy to build around in that backcourt long-term.
Yeah, I like this one a lot. This might be where I have him in the mock as well. No, I don't. I lied. It's not. Really interesting. Really, really interesting player. I'm a big Kobe Buffkin fan. Shout out Andrew Schlecht coming up with the Buffkin boys. We're all Buffkin boys here on this show. We love Andrew. Okay. Next. I am up at number 14. This is hard. I actually think this is like the pick that might be most likely to be traded right now outside of the Dallas pick, because just the way that the board falls is really hard. I don't know. Like, you could take Derek Lively here, but like, I don't love the Lively and Williamson fit long-term. They have a lot of these bigger wings. They could take like a creative guard swing, I guess, like a Nick Smith or something like that. They could take a Keontae George, I guess, but like, I'm a little bit lower on those guys than Lively. Uh, they really need defensive ability. This is where the draft really kind of falls off, in my opinion, after we get past like Buffkin and Miller. Those are the two guys like in this tier that I really like. Oh man, this is gross. Yeah, I'm gonna take. Yeah, this sucks. The trade pass.
Pass.
I'll take Derek
The,
Lively. They just need defense.
yeah.
I don't feel great about it.
Yeah. Just double it and give it to the next person, right? Whatever you do with this pick.
Yeah, go ahead. I don't feel great about this. This is a hard pick, I think. They I think, are really hoping. This isn't based on, this is me speculating. I think they would hope one of Case and Wallace, Grady Dick, Kobe Buffkin falls to them at 14.
Yep, I agree.
If any other stray thoughts here before we finish this mock?
Well, I think as far as I'm concerned, in the way that I've looked at this class, I'm not sure if you agree. I think there is a fairly hard top 11 right now where I don't see many of those guys from a talent perspective falling out of it. Maybe if Derek Lively is the right fit in Dallas, he's the one that jumps into that group and it moves more towards the top 12. But I do feel like Grady Dick at 11 and then all the guys that we mocked above him. After that point, it can be a little bit of a toss-up. You and I both seem to like the guys individually that we got at 12 and 13 in Leonard Miller and Kobe Buffkin, but there's a ton of possibilities and ways that the draft could shake out once we get to that later part of the lottery. So it will be a very fascinating middle part of the first round to watch.
I think that's right. I don't really know what's going to happen in the middle of that first round. Like I have it mocked a certain way right now. And I don't feel great about the way I have it mocked. I think that there's like a group from, there's like 11 guys that I feel like are very likely to be lottery picks. I think there's a group from 12 to 22 or so that are like pretty likely to be first round picks. Starting, in my opinion, with like Kobe Buffkin, Leonard Miller, Derek Lively. And then like you get into like the Sensabaugh, Nick Smith, Jordan Hawkins, Keontae George range. Chris Murray certainly deserves to be mentioned in this range as well. And then after that, you really get into like the guys that I think are real question marks. Like does Bobby Klintman get called in the first round? Does Julian Phillips get called in the first round? Yeah. Does, Colby Jones, Jaime Jaquez, Rayon Rupert, like I have Gigi Jackson in that range. Okay. I don't, like I don't know if he's a first rounder for me, to be honest.
Okay.
But yeah, I'm intrigued to see that range. I think that's the fun range. And by the way, like Bilal Coulibaly is like an interesting name in that range too, that like could very easily go there.
Yeah. As I'm looking at this, like there's opportunity for those late risers who are young and really intriguing and fit that positional mold that the NBA tends to look for. Like Bobby Klintman is one of those names. Bilal Coulibaly, maybe even Noah Clowney jumps up into like the 14 through 17 range. Like there's some guys that could make that sneaky ascent, because what we have are a glut of these like two guards who are giant question marks in a lot of ways, whether it's injury wise with Dariq Whitehead, athletically, or injury wise with Nick Smith on the defensive end of the floor, Sensabaugh with defense. There are Keontae George and just exactly what role he plays. There's a lot of question marks around those guys in that position group. We know positional size, more like lengthy multi-positional wings, are the flavor of the month right now. I wouldn't be shocked to see a lot of movement between now and draft night on where we are picking some of these guys and how the mocks continue to take shape leading up to late June.
I think that's right. Adam, tell the people where they can find all of your work as we get into pure draft season, baby.
Oh, draft season, the best time of the year. Find me on Twitter at @theboxin1_. My Substack page, theboxin1.substack.com, which is having a 25% off sale for anyone who wants to become a gratefully appreciated paid subscriber there. Or you can find all my YouTube scouting reports and mock drafts available on my YouTube channel, which is just my name, Adam Spinella. Sam, this was super, 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 super fun. Thanks for having me.
This has been great. Go to The Athletic. I have a full scouting report on Victor Wembanyama up. We ran what we'll run in the 2023 NBA draft guide a few weeks early on Victor Wembanyama because we wanted A, to build excitement for the draft guide, and B, to get it out there for people that are trying to learn more about Wembanyama tonight. Go to The Athletic, find the mock draft that I did. I have updated the 2022 or 2023, I'm sorry, NBA mock draft. I did not update the 2022 mock draft again. Can confirm I did not do that. I am indeed also going to write, as I sound like Greg from Succession as I say this. I am going to also write how does Victor Wembanyama fit on the San Antonio Spurs thing for tomorrow. I've written a good amount of it already, to be honest.